Beyond just the working capital it gave you a belief. Like your belief system had to be so solid at that point. Like, oh my gosh, why am I even horsing around with these smaller deals now? So go ahead and tell us a little bit how you got started. I know you were a guest on another show, and anyone that missed it, you just bring up to speed here.
Yeah, so I mean, my background's in residential real estate. So I was going through college in the last real estate market boom, right? So 03 to 07, I'm going through college. Anybody who was involved in real estate was making money at that time, and that's what motivated a 20-year-old kid at the time. So I ended up, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, and moved out to New York City, which is where my brother was living at the time, and got a job as a commercial real estate agent. And so I would broker leases for retail and office, and wanted to make money. Ended up brokering this lease for this one landlord in Greenwich Village area. Good area, about a 400 square foot space, smaller than this studio even. And we signed a lease for this guy with a falafel shop for $10,000 a month for 400 square feet. 4% annual increases on the rent, and it was a 12-year lease term. And so if you do the math on that, you multiply it all out, and you're like, this landlord's going to make almost $2 million over the next 10, 12 years for doing something at one point in time, not to mention the other 7 stories of, the other 7 retail spaces and like 10, 15 stories of apartments above it. So I realized pretty quickly I needed to be on the side of owning real estate instead of the side of brokering real estate. But I think I went through the whole transition of, or mindset shift of thinking, in order for me to go out and buy passive income producing properties, I need to go out and stockpile a bunch of cash. And so that's what I ended up doing. I got into wholesaling, got into flipping turnkey houses, started a management company, then started investing in some small multi and then larger multifamily. And a couple of years ago, just realized that majority of my time, or majority of my net worth was coming from my apartments, and it was a small fraction of my time. So I ended up just shutting down everything else, burning the ships, doubling down on my apartments, and I have a total portfolio of 3,207 units as of today, a little over $250 million in portfolio value, and and still going, right?
Wow, that's an amazing story. All in a decade. You're a young guy. How old are you? 30?
34, just turned 34.
Happy birthday, just turned
Thanks,
34. Buddy. Wow. So let's start just at the beginning of the deal. You're buying apartment buildings. How many units? What's your starting point?
I think that changes as your ambitions change, right? And as your skill set changes and as your abilities change. And for me, I was buying single family or duplexes or quadplexes or 8 unit. And 8 unit was the first building I bought, actually over here on West 130th Street in Brook Park. Right here in Cleveland, Ohio. I bought an 8 unit building in 2012 for $30,000. Crazy, wow. Right? But this is like when the market was at its trough, right? And so bought it, put another $50,000 into it. I'm all in for $10,000 a unit, $80,000 total, and it ended up producing around $27,000 a year in net income. And so I'm looking at this thing, and I'm flipping houses, and every time I flip a house, it takes me 3, 4, 6 months to flip it. I make around 30% return on my investment, right? All in after expenses, closing costs, and everything. And then I took this apartment building and I turned around and I'd flip that and I'd make around the same. The difference is when you add in the rental income that it produced and you take out the holding costs that were over here, it ended up being about a 60, 70, 80% return on the flipping of rental properties. So that's what got me into more flipping of like turnkey houses versus like the retail stuff that you see on HGTV. Right. And then I just liked the scale that apartment buildings offered. So I didn't have access to my own money. I didn't have access to private money as much as I do today, right? And so I thought I had to keep on stockpiling my own money, kept on doing that, made some good money, and then just realized that I could maneuver and pivot into apartment buildings. And so I ended up doing that and took my acquisition guy and moved him from, only looking at houses to flip and started looking at apartments to buy and hold. Took my project manager who was flipping houses and told him to start, renovating apartments. And I took my dispositions guy and had him pivot from selling single family houses to essentially managing the management company. So it was a small pivot in operations, but a big leap in mindset for the whole team. And what's pretty crazy is like what happens when you put that out in the universe and you just burn the ships like I did, and how the universe responds. The next deal that came across our desk was an 11-unit building in Lakewood, Ohio, and a little bit more work than what we wanted to do and put into it. So we ended up wholesaling it, made $87,000 on that wholesale fee.
Wow.
So that now gave us the enough capital to cover the bills and cover the operating expenses and the overhead for a few months to continue to look for more apartment buildings. And that's how we got started, man.